Okay. It is great to welcome on board Keziah Jones. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good, man. Very good.
We actually met a long time ago. I don't know which year, maybe 90, 91, 92 at the Virgin Megastore in Tokyo.
Yeah.
You did an in-store event. I think it was just after your debut album, and I was emceeing and DJing and you were playing live.
Wow.
So it's lovely to meet you.
Hey, man. Nice to meet you again.
What have you been doing for 23 years?
Right. Indeed.
Well, welcome back to Tokyo.
Thank you.
What do you love about Japan when you're here?
Oh, man. It's always very interesting when I'm here because the fact that people here tend to really focus on music or a technique anyways. I'm a guitar player, so anybody who is into focusing on what I'm actually doing, that to me is great because generally in the rest of the world it's not so much about the technique of the guitar, it's more about the whole entertainment idea, maybe sometimes the lyrics. So here I meet a lot of people who are really into the style of the guitar and I can talk about those kind of things and that's just what I love to talk about.
Oh.
So on that level it's pretty cool. And of course on the other level of Japanese culture, I mean I'm into Japanese literature and Japanese things. When I'm here I buy a lot of things that I take back to wherever I'm living at the time. So it could be like a photography book, it could be like a cloth, you know. I think I'm quite fascinated by that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think you tipped an interesting point too, because the Japanese love the details and things. So if the Japanese love something, they really love it and they go deep, deep, deep. So I think it's an interesting point about your your guitar technique. I imagine a lot of people that come to the show really want to sit there and look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
You said, do you like Japanese literature, and you take things back to where you're living. What sort of things do you think you'll take back this time?
We were talking on the bus yesterday, and basically some art would be good.
Oh.
Some visual things would be good. I don't know how or where, but I imagine some sort of visual art would be good. That would be something I'd take back. If I could take organic things back, I'll take some trees.
Trees?
Yeah.
What about food? The food's pretty good here too.
Yeah, food's great.
You paint as well yourself, yeah?
Yes.
Tell us about your painting.
I'm a paint. Well, I draw essentially. I mean, I paint because I splash paint on it later on, but I wouldn't call myself a painter. I do line drawings, which are basically I spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours just drawing lines, and then I connect all those lines up with tiny little details. I mean, over time, you'll have a great big piece of work that's like. You can see many things in it. You can see a female shape, you can see a landscape, you can see characters, and then I make those things stronger. I don't actually know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. I just like making repetitive shapes, and I join it up. It just takes a really long time, so I do that, and then sometimes I splash paint on it. But essentially it's line drawings, black and white. I do that because when I'm working on music, there's only so far you can go sometimes with your brain. If you're trying to write a song about something, you get stuck, like, you know, you want to describe a situation and you can't find the words, or you can't find the chords, or you've used all those chords already. I draw. And when you draw, you actually have another interpretation of what it is you're trying to do. So that's why I do it. I don't consider myself a painter or an artist. I just use it as a means to get around obstacles in music.
Does the music connect or influence the visual, or does the drawing connect with the music you're currently writing or trying to write, or if you have a block, you know, are they connected?
Yeah, totally. It's solving problems. They solve problems. You know, I don't think there's any difference between sound and image, or sound and movement. I look at it all as quite connected up. So I think you can actually draw a sound, you can play a movement. I look at it like that. So they're totally linked. If there's a blockage, like I said, I'll go towards a color or like a line or literature, you know, writing to solve it. It's just that we call one thing music, one thing writing, one thing painting, and one thing drawing. You know. Is there a color that you love with your painting? Do you think your music has a color? My main color is this color, deep indigo blue.
Yeah,
That's my color I love because where I'm from, in Abeokuta, which is not far from Lagos, my mother there's a tradition of dyeing. They dye this deep indigo cloth in these massive pits in the earth. So I was born when she started doing that, and she thinks that's the reason for my kind of particular headspace.
Interesting point.
Yeah.
Well, indigo is another colour for Japan too, because the traditional cloth here is this really beautiful, very similar, deep blue.
Oh, yeah.
There's another thing you can take back with you.
Right, exactly.
Tell us about Captain Rugged. It's your new album. It's the title of the album, but it's not just a title. It's an alter ego, I guess. Is that what would you call Captain Rugged? Tell us about this person.
Yeah, I mean it's a character that has been kicking around for a while. It's a character that I see a lot when I was growing up. I saw a lot when I was growing up. People who work with us in Nigeria, who are our drivers and our helpers. There are people like that who spoke a certain way and acted and behaved a certain way. And then ruggedness as a means of when I was sent to the UK to school, and then I left school and I came to play on the street and living on the street, you know, with a hat and boots and a scarf and like, you know, avoiding the police and, you know, rugged, you know, you had to be a certain character, you know, survivalist character. You make do with what you've got, you know, you create something out of bits and pieces, and you are flexible, you relax, you are able to just deal with situations as they arrive. So ruggedness to me was a whole way of being. And so over the years I've been sketching it down, like, you know, if it was actually going to be a graphic novel, we made a comic book out of this story. It came out at the same time as the album in Europe, and we're trying to get it out here as well. If I was to read this as a comic book, what would he look like, and what would his superpowers be? All these kind of things came up, and just in conversations with friends, we arrived at this character, Captain Rugged, you know. So I wrote the music to go with the story, and my friend drew it, a guy called Native Makari. He drew the graphic novel. So really, overall, it's a satire on being Nigerian, on being Nigerian European, on speaking English, thinking in Yoruba, on playing guitar, on all these things. It's a satire because, you know, identity is fluid, and like, you know, if you're going to be a superhero, you might as well be an African one. You know?
It's about time.
You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the curious thing. I mean, Nigeria is such an amazing, booming country at the moment. I mean, just so much happening. Yeah. Not that I've been there. I would love to go sometime. You said that your stuff is there at the moment. It's essentially your home at the moment, but you know, you've lived all over. But what would you want to tell the world about Nigeria today in the 21st century?
A lot of people don't know or don't connect the dots in the sense that, like, when they look at Cuban culture or North American culture or Haiti or Brazil, they don't. Well, as a black person, you automatically link all those things together, because what I see in Haiti, in terms of the way they dress or the way they speak or the way they walk, I see that in Lagos. I see the same thing in New York. But a lot of other people don't necessarily join all those bits together. Coming from Nigeria, as a result of the history of Nigeria, as a result of the slave trade that came from that West African coast, theoretically, all those people in Cuba, Brazil, North America, and the Caribbean, a lot of them came from that western, I mean, ethnically, I guess, came from that western coast. I walk in Brazil, I go to Brazil and I see a guy who looks like Yoruba, like me, or another guy looks like a Hausa from the north. You know, I see that. You know, I see that in North America. But they consider themselves Americans. You know, they consider themselves Cubans and Brazilians or whatever. So what Nigeria has to offer is actually it is the central point of the black diaspora as a whole. And my job as a Nigerian who has traveled around the world is to look at what I can recognize in Haitian music or Haitian art, or Cuban music or Cuban language, or Brazilian fashion, or like a North American you know, literature, black literature, and identify what is Yoruba. I'm Yoruba from the south, and bring all those things back into Nigeria and resell it back to the rest of the world. Because, you know, there's been a communication that's been going on since the beginning of slave trade, where they've been communicating across with each other. For example, Fela Kuti's music is called Afrobeat, but Afrobeat is a result of high life music, which is Nigerian sailors traveling to Brazil and coming back with the rumba, and then Nigerian musicians taking it, indigenizing it, making it to something else and selling it back and forth. There's been this back and forth all the time, and that's what I do as a musician, and that's what Nigeria really represents. It's like the mothership. It's like the mothership of black diasporic culture. And a lot of people don't recognize that, because what you hear about Nigeria is basically a lot of other stuff, but in reality, culturally, it is the central hub of black culture worldwide.
Yeah. And do you think Captain Rugged is going to tell the world this? Is this part of his story? Captain
Rugged is basically an attempt to make that contemporary, like using a superhero is something everybody understands from Western culture and from every culture. superpowers and all those things is what people understand, superheroes. So basically I try to explain those things in a way people can understand by using superhero and also using, like I said, African American funk, jazz, blues, rock, you know, and English language, poetry. I use all these things and I indigenize it and Nigerianize it and sell it back again in a way you can understand. So, you know, it all sounds a bit like blah, 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 but really it's something that if I wasn't schooled in England, I wouldn't be able to explain it in such a way like this. But
Right.
people generally doing this all the time naturally. But I just find it interesting to explain it with words.